breaking news on meats from China. Have you learned anything since the start of the show?
We're all scrambling trying to confirm what exactly is happening. And I'm told that this is... So last week, China had flagged that they were concerned about fake approval permits and certificates for Canadian pork products. So now China has basically... I mean, this is upping the ante in the Canada-China dispute, which we all know the root of. But they've now asked Canada to suspend all its permits for all meat products and all pork products. So China's our third largest market for all of this stuff. That's huge. The Canadian government hasn't yet made a decision on whether to suspend those permits. That could happen while they sort out what they call a technical issue. But the Chinese are suggesting that all Canadian meat is somehow fraudulently approved for export, which is certainly not the case, but, you know, we'll see what happens.
How do you respond to this, Bob?
Well, they don't know how to respond to it. And what happens if they go after lobsters or fish? Because, I mean, that could be the next thing on the pork, for example. 45% of the pork is from Quebec. So that's a real... really hurts the
beef
Liberals.
Market out west, it's huge.
There's no, I don't know what the solution here is. I mean, the Chinese have said we will not bow to anything until you release Meng Wanzhou. So the Prime Minister is going to G20, leaves tomorrow for Japan. Right. Maybe he'll get an opportunity to have a meeting with President Xi Jinping, but the Chinese position seems to be, is you free or we're going to continue putting the screws to you.
I think this was always going to get worse before it ever gets better, and I think it will still get worse. Look, I'm not convinced that Trudeau will get any kind of a meeting with Xi Jinping. I think if anything, he might corner him in the bathroom or in the hallway, but that's not going to happen by the tone of the Chinese government's approach to all of its affairs with Canada right now. If there's a hope, if there's a route, it's through Trump. And Trump, even though he said what he said in the Oval Office last week, you know, basically his first answer was, I have no concerns about the Canadians there. So, you know, is this high on his radar list, high on his radar to get help for Canada? We'll see. I really would not have high expectations.
Tends to have an America first perspective.
And that's the big problem for them. Yeah. That's their trade deal with China is the big issue for them right now.
But, you know, the Prime Minister made, I thought, a very foolish tactical mistake a week ago when he said, oh, I hope to meet President Xi at the G20. I mean, the Premier of China won't take his phone calls, and neither will Chrystia Freeland get any response back from China's foreign minister. And President Xi is apparently, according to our former ambassador Guy Saint-Jacques, saying that in fact Xi is a good friend of the Huawei founder, and he himself was the one who was really angry about this. So if the boss is upset, I don't know how you're going to make any changes here.
All right. You know, and my heart is really like just those Canadians who are detained there and all the people now whose livelihoods are impacted by this. But I'm not sure how else Canada could have responded to the U.S. extradition request. I'm still not really sure, other than following the letter of the extradition treaty. And maybe they'll have a chance to make a political decision after a court deals with this, because then it will fall to the government. But beforehand, I think we've kind of got to walk the talk, we always say, of respecting the rule of law. It very well
could be that a judge will look at this and say, you know what, there's too much politics in this because of the things that Trump himself has said, right? That they will throw it out. I mean, that's the only thing we're kind of hoping for. The government doesn't want to be in a situation where it cancels the extradition treaty. Given all the problems that they had with SNC Lavalin and Vice Admiral Norman, this is not a win-win situation for them to do that.